Gary Charles had the world at his feet, but behind the scenes, he was fighting the toughest battle. What exactly went wrong? This is the story of how alcohol addiction shattered a promising football career. Born in 1970, Gary Charles wasn't served things in a silver spoon. He grew up in a bustling part of London, a place where the streets were loud and everyone seemed in a hurry. His family had a small flat, always a bit cramped, but there was always love in the air and laughter bounced off the walls. Gary found his escape on the football pitch. It didn't matter if it was a patch of worn-out grass in the park or the proper pitch at school. The ball at his feet made the world melt away. Gary wasn't the biggest lad, but he was quick. He could twist and turn, leaving defenders looking like they were stuck in mud. Even local coaches started to take notice of the skinny kid with the dazzling feet. One day, a scout from Nottingham Forest, a big club with a proud history, came to watch a random game. And luckily on this day, Gary played his heart out. He dribbled, he passed, and he even scored a goal. Afterward, the scout, who was a serious-looking man, came up to him and said, "You've got something special, son," with a tiny smile peeking through his gruffness. Gary's life changed overnight. He went from playing with his mates for fun to training with the best young footballers in the country. The coaches at Forest were tough, pushing him harder than he'd ever been pushed before, but there was a fire in Gary that wouldn't be snuffed out. He wanted it, the roar of the crowd, the thrill of victory, the feeling of being part of something bigger than himself. When Gary was 17, Forest's star right-back got injured, so Gary got the chance to play. He was nervous at first, but once the game started, he played like a champ. The crowd loved him because he played differently than the usual defenders. That was just the start. Gary went on to play for big clubs in England, had international success, and even played against famous players in Portugal. But it was his childhood in London that sparked his love for the game. From here, Gary was only meant for great things, or so you'd like to believe. Well, every sportsman has his big break, but Gary Charles didn't burst onto the scene with fireworks. His rise was steady, fueled by hard work and a quiet determination. He started in local London leagues as a solid defender with an eye for the game. Gary Charles's football journey was also a whirlwind of brilliance and heartbreak. It was Nottingham Forest, however, where he blossomed under the legendary Brian Clough. Gary's style was like a breath of fresh air in defence, bringing a flair that reminded people of Brazilian stars. That's how he got the nickname the Brazilian. Even Clough, a football legend, admired Gary's effortless runs and natural talent. Things looked bright when he made his debut for England in 1991, playing against New Zealand and Malaysia. But then came a cruel twist of fate. In the 1991 FA Cup final, a harsh tackle from Paul Gascoigne tore Gary's cruciate ligaments, changing his path. He showed bravery by helping Forest win the full Members' Cup in 1992, but injuries started piling up. Gary didn't give up, though. He moved to Derby County and even made it to the PFA Team of the Year in 1993-94. Later, at Aston Villa, he won the League Cup, but injuries, especially a bad ankle, kept haunting him. He decided to try his luck in Portugal with Benfica, but faced more injury setbacks. Even returning to his childhood club, West Ham United, Gary couldn't shake off the curse of injuries. At this point, everyone was left to wonder what could have been. Injuries robbed him and the football world of seeing his true potential. But there's so much more that was going on in the background that truly and genuinely destroyed his career. You know, the roar of the crowd had always been Gary's favourite drug. The adrenaline coursing through him, the weight of the eyes, that perfect moment when a pass cleaved through the opposition, leading to a goal. There wasn't a high to match it. Until the injuries started. It started off simply enough. An injured ankle here, a strained hamstring there. Some time away from the field, time to pass, and the lasting pain, sometimes sharp, sometimes just a dull ache. A beer made things easier initially, the warm feeling blurring the disappointments and feeling sorry for himself. He was Gary Charles, a defender for England, a rising star. A bit of a drink wouldn't hurt him, no one would know, except his body knew. The crispness of his movements faded, his reactions a hair slower. The injuries, once irritations, became career-threatening. Yet when he was on the field, fueled by the match-day rush, Nothing else mattered. But afterward, when the silence of his apartment loomed big, that's when the bottle became his teammate. Soon, even the smallest excuses were enough. It wasn't all-consuming at first, not the way they showed in the movies. Gary was a functional alcoholic, or so he told himself. He could pull it together, get on the pitch, do what was needed. Sometimes he even believed it. There were streaks of brilliance, flashes of the old Gary that had managers and fans still hoping. But the slide was relentless. The drinking went from after matches to before, from celebration to necessity. His reputation began to destroy him, the one tarnished by rumours and too many late booze-soaked nights. And it was at this point that everyone wanted him to retire, so he did. But what next? What could possibly be the next thing a legend like Gary Charles would do? Well, a coaching career seemed like the logical next step in 2011. He had the tactical mind and the drive to succeed. Unfortunately, his career trajectory was cut short by a string of injuries. It was in those forced pauses, filled with physical pain and uncertainty about his future, that alcohol became a sinister companion. What began as a way to manage stress turned into a full-blown addiction. His early attempts at coaching faltered as the bottle took over him. Gary Charles had a rough time battling addiction, which put a stopper on his promising coaching career. Despite his talent shining through occasionally, addiction kept pulling him back. He lost opportunities, and his enthusiasm waned as he struggled to stay sober. But Gary's story doesn't stop there. In a pivotal moment, he decided to get help and started his tough journey to recovery. It wasn't easy. He faced setbacks and fought against temptations constantly. But with the support of others, therapy, and his own determination, he fought for the life he wanted. As he regained control of his life, his coaching career picked up again. He became assistant manager at Lincoln City in 2011, then moved to be director of football at the University of Nottingham. He even managed Nuneaton Town for a while in 2018. But more than his career success, Gary's passion burned brighter. His own struggles made him a better mentor and coach. He understood the challenges players faced beyond the game, becoming a guiding light for those battling their own demons. Hitting rock bottom can sometimes be the jolt we need to turn our lives around. Take Gary Charles, for example. He found himself in prison, facing the consequences of his alcohol addiction. But in that dark cell, he had a moment of clarity. He realized that alcohol was tearing his life apart. But Gary's story doesn't end there. It's not just about his downfall. It's about his rise from the ashes. Today, Gary is sober and dedicated to helping others overcome addiction. He's a counselor, a mentor, and an advocate, using his own experiences to support those in need. While he kept his personal life relatively private, it's known that he was a supportive father to his son Jaden, who followed in his footsteps to become a professional footballer as well. Though details about his wife and other family members are less public, his commitment to those closest to him was a source of strength throughout his career. Gary Charles's story is one of both triumph and tragedy. He was a talented footballer with the world at his feet, but injuries and the relentless pressure of the sport led him down a dark path of alcohol addiction. His career suffered, his reputation tarnished, and he eventually hit rock bottom. Yet Gary's story is also one of hope. He found the strength to fight his addiction, and now he's using his experiences to help others overcome their own struggles. Gary is proof that even when we fall, we can always get back up again. His journey serves as a reminder that it's never too late to create a better future for ourselves. If you've been inspired by Gary Charles's story, please share this video and help spread the message of hope and recovery. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, please know that help is available. See you in the next one.